All right, today we're talking about something that really separates the folks who just copy from the ones who truly innovate. It's a way of thinking that lets you, completely break away from how things have always been done and build something totally new. But before we get to that, we got to talk about a trap that pretty much all of us fell into.
So do you ever feel like you're just stuck? Like you're just doing what everyone else is doing? You know the drill. You had a problem, and your first thought is, okay, what did everyone else do? And you try to make it maybe a tiny bit better or faster or cheaper. The thing is, that path, it only gets you small wins. You're never going to have a huge breakthrough that way. You just end up stuck, copying everyone else.
But what if you could just break free? What if you could create something that's actually revolutionary? Well, there is another way. It's this structured process for tearing things down and building them back up. And it's been used by some of the smartest people in history. We're talking everyone from Aristotle all the way to Elon Musk. It's called first principles thinking. And honestly, it is the key to real, honest-to-goodness innovation.
So to really get why this method is so powerful, we have to look at how our brains usually work by default. You know, that little mental shortcut that kind of keeps us stuck in our ways.
It's called reasoning by analogy. Basically, when you're faced with a new problem, your brain's first move is to go, what's a similar problem I've seen before? We just copy what other people are doing or what's been done in the past because it's safe, it's fast, and it feels easy. It's literally our brain's default mode.
So what does that actually look like?
Well, with reasoning by analogy, a new food delivery app would try to compete by what? Offering a 5% discount? It's just a small tweak on the same old thing. But with first principles, you'd be questioning the entire model and trying to create something brand new from scratch. And that's the big problem, right? Reasoning by analogy, yeah, it's safe, it's easy. But it's never, ever going to lead to a massive breakthrough. It basically locks you into this one simple reality. If all you ever do is copy what's already been done, you can't create what comes next. Okay, so if thinking by analogy is the trap, how do you get out? Well, that brings us to the innovator's path. It's definitely harder, but man, it is so much more powerful. First principles thinking is pretty much the exact opposite of analogy. You have to literally ignore what everyone else is doing. You take a problem and you just break it all the way down to its most basic, fundamental truths. We're talking about the things that are absolutely, undeniably true. And then, from that fresh, clean slate, you start building a solution from the ground up. And honestly, there is no better example of this in action than Elon Musk with SpaceX. He used this exact method to build a company that literally changed the world. So think about it. When Musk got into the space industry, the established truth was that rockets are just insanely expensive. I mean, everyone knew that. If he had just reasoned by analogy, what would he have done? Maybe try to build a rocket that's, 10% cheaper? But no. That's not what he did. Instead, he went right back to the very basics. He asked a first principles question that just blew the whole game wide open. He didn't ask, how can I make the current rockets cheaper? He asked, what is a rocket fundamentally made of? So that's what he did. He deconstructed the rocket. He totally ignored all the complicated assembly and just focused on the building blocks. He listed out the raw materials, the aluminum alloys, the titanium, copper, carbon fiber, and then he could go straight to the market and find out what that stuff actually costs. He just sidestepped the entire industry's inflated pricing. And this is the incredible aha moment. What he found was that the raw materials to build a rocket, they only cost about 2% of the final price. Just 2%. The other 98%? That wasn't the stuff itself. It was the process. It was decades and decades of inefficient, this is how we've always done it thinking. And that single insight, born from first principles, is what completely revolutionized the entire space industry. By thinking from the ground up, from the fundamental truths, Musk saw that he could build rockets for a tiny fraction of the cost. And that's what kicked off the new space race. But here's the best part. You do not have to be a rocket scientist to use this way of thinking. Seriously, it's a tool that anyone can use.
So let's break it down into a really simple 3-step guide that you can start using on, well, pretty much any problem. Okay, so the process is super straightforward. First step, deconstruct. You identify a core belief that everyone just assumes is true. Step 2, break it down. You question that belief like crazy until you're left with only the fundamental truths, the stuff that's 100% solid. And finally, step 3, rebuild. From those core truths, you start building a completely new solution.
All right, let's walk through an example. So, step 1, identify a core belief. Let's take a really common one in business. To run a successful e-commerce brand, you have to spend a ton of money on ads, right? We're going to challenge that idea. Okay, step 2, break it down. So the assumption is you need ads. But why do you need ads? To get your brand noticed, right? So the real goal, the fundamental truth here isn't run ads. The real goal is, how do I make potential customers aware that my awesome clothing even exists? See the difference?
And now for step 3, we rebuild. The second your goal switches from buying ads to creating awareness, suddenly, boom, a whole universe of new ideas opens up. You can start thinking about things like collaborating with niche influencers, or creating a viral content series, or partnering with subscription boxes, or even working with offline boutiques. These are all solutions that are way more creative and often way more effective than just throwing money at ads. So let's pull all this together. At the end of the day, the choice is yours. Are you going to follow the path everyone else is on, or are you going to create your own? Here's maybe the best way to sum it all up. Reasoning by analogy? That's like trying to make a better candle. You can try forever, and sure, you might get a candle that burns a little brighter or lasts a little longer, but it's still just a candle. First principles thinking is what lets you forget about the candle completely and invent the light bulb.
Look, thinking from first principles is not the easy way out. It takes discipline, it takes being willing to question literally everything, and it takes courage to build something new from scratch. But that hard work, that is what makes the difference between a small tweak and a world-changing breakthrough.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Think about your own job, your industry, maybe even your personal goals. What is one assumption, one piece of conventional wisdom that everybody just accepts as true? And what do you think would happen if you were the one who finally decided to challenge it?